Tony Richardson made a decent living as an accountant working around the country. He also invested in real estate, which stretched his income.
I used to live in Texas, and when I lived in Texas, I had the house here in Tennessee, and I was working in Arkansas. I was always just coming up short. I was having good jobs, but things weren't going well.
He tried to sell the properties, but with the slump in the housing market, there were no buyers. He maxed out his credit cards and fell behind on his truck payments. The bank threatened to repossess.
It's easy to go and get into situations to where you just spend more than what you have. You spend more than what you're making.
Tony started going to a church that taught on the importance of tithing.
And I realized that I couldn't make it if I wasn't tithing. And when I tithed, the place that I was trying to sell in Texas had sold. I was able to pay my truck off. So when I tithed, it just kind of put me right back where I needed to be.
Tony was able to pay off a significant amount of debt. Around the same time, the demand for his accounting services started to increase. Within 2 years, Tony's income jumped from $30,000 to 6 figures.
And it was an exciting feeling to be able to tithe and give back to God and be blessed. God he just prospered me. He prospered me physically. He prospered me financially. He prospered me materially. It was just a whole person.
So when Tony landed a lucrative consulting job with a large corporation, he decided to give more to God. He called the 700 Club and made a pledge. That same day, the company asked him to falsify a report. He refused. 2 days later,
they came through and said, "We don't really need you working here anymore."
Even though he was now without a job, Tony wanted to honor the pledge he had just made to CBN.
It was a good time to just say, hey, I'm not going to pay it. I can't really afford to. But I knew that God has just proved himself faithful over and over again.
In just a few days, Tony got a call from a friend he hadn't talked to in 20 years. He offered him a job. Each month, he works 2 weeks in St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. The other 2 weeks, he takes off and goes back home to Tennessee.
People were just like, wow, how did that happen? What happened? And it was just God. It was just God, because God could trust me. And when God can trust you, he will just put you in situations to where, you will just be able to prosper. People know that, man, it can only be God.